Good morning, everybody. It's Michelle Alcorn here with my mom, Helen from Atlantic Canada Cooks, and we're warming up the kitchen. Why? Because it's pretty cool here in Atlantic Canada. Many of you, if you're watching the news or you're from here in Atlantic Canada, we've had a bit of a cold wave, somewhat like a heat wave, but less pleasant. And it's been deeply cold temperatures in the minus 20s, minus 30s. But there's one way to get around that, and that's cook some hearty, warm dishes in the kitchen. So today we're going to do that. So we always get excited when we have an opportunity to cook, and we got some friends coming over to share in some of the things that we're cooking today. And we're going to get some chicken stew. And Mom, this is a recipe we were just discussing with my Aunt Rita, and like for your family, our family, just quite traditional, right?
Oh yes. Not when you kids were young, must have been every couple of weeks I had a nice big chicken stew.
Definitely, right?
It was hearty and filling, and to fill 3 kids.
Right? And you know what? Families in generally an inexpensive meal to make.
Yeah.
So we bought one of these really cool stew packs. In the bag came some cabbage and some turnip, some of the ingredients that are going to be going into that, and there was parsnips as well. And other than your potatoes and your protein, it was a really big bag, enough to make about 4 pots of stew, and it was only $4. So these tend to be good root vegetables, hearty and healthy. We see some of our Zoom audience coming in there too, and hi to YouTube. But we're gonna get things cooking because we've got the stew. We're gonna make one of Mom's favorite dishes, and that's a potato leek soup. And in addition to that, just this casserole that I call a pizza and beef potato bake. And you'll see it's fun and it's delicious. So great food starts with great ingredients. And we have a lot of great ingredients out here today. Right in front of me, you'll see here, we've got these beautiful chicken drumsticks. So love using these for a stew. You've got great butchers locally. They've already cut all the pieces up. So I am going to season these on both sides. I've already seasoned the other side. We're going to use some pepper. And, some of my tips are getting the right things in your kitchen, and they're not expensive. Be kind. Get yourself a pepper grinder. We've got some salt here too. So we're just going to put salt and pepper on both sides of our chicken. So this is here. We've got it seasoned. And I'm going to give this to Mom, and she's going to take that. I'm going to give her these nice trusty tongs. We'll screw those tongs to you, Mom. And she's just going to make sure that they get really nicely seared on all sides. And this is the start of the stew. Everything is going to be cooked in the same pot. How exciting is that? So this is one of the other things that I love about this particular recipe. So we're heating up the oil in our pot. And Mom, I'm just going to move off to the side, so we've got a nice big pot here. I'm going to test one to make sure we're getting not quite yet. Close though.
Yeah.
A little bit of a sear. I'm going to set these over here for you, Mom. Okay. And your tongs.
Right.
Talking about kitchen tools and the things that you want to make sure that you have. And tongs are definitely one of them. So we're going to sear the chicken. We're going to get a nice crusty edge around the chicken. Mom's going to remove that and set it off to the side just for a few minutes. And what we're going to do is in the bottom of the pan, we've got some wonderful onions here that are already cut up. Now, they're not diced. They're a decent size because I don't want those onions to disappear in my stew. I want to see some good sized chunks, as we would say. The other thing I have here is some celery cut up. So, and here, this little pile is all beautiful celery that we've cut up. I love the freshness of celery. Celery is one of those, always adds a crisp and a crunch and such a beautiful flavor to every dish. And here in the corner, in my little bag that was called a stew pack, was one of these parsnips. And the funny thing about a parsnip is it's kind of like a white carrot, but they taste a little more bitter. So I've got one parsnip cut up here. Again, I can hear the chicken sizzling behind me, Mom. That sounds perfect. Mom's gonna add these in once we remove the chicken. And we're gonna stir those up and we're gonna add our seasoning in with them. Then afterwards, we're gonna add some wonderful fresh carrots. Now this is a stew, so I like to cut those carrots a little bit bigger. And this is a turnip, or sometimes called a rutabaga. And they'll come in different sizes. So I love these turnips. They're very healthy, good for you, and that solid, hard root vegetable, just like a carrot and that parsnip. So they take a little longer to cook. We're gonna put those in our stew. The other thing that's gonna go in, and this is the middle of the celery. And it's funny because oftentimes people forget to use this or put this and throw it out. Those wonderful leaves are exactly what we want to put into the stew, and they add very good aromatics and wonderful flavor. So these are all going to be going in to the pot. So I'm going to put these over here, so they're going to be ready for Mom. The other thing that I'm going to be adding, and we're going to add this into all of our recipes today, is some fresh garlic. So I have, it's a good sized pot of stew, and I have about 7 cloves of garlic here. So right here, I've got a knife, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop the garlic up a little bit. And I just need what we would say is a rough chop on this. There we go. That chicken sounds good, Mom. And we'll show you because she's going to take that chicken out. Mom, that bowl's there for you as it gets ready. There we have it. We're going to put this garlic in this little bowl because it's going to go in with the onions and everything in the next step that's going to be going in the stew pot. I'm going to cut that, Mom. Chicken to the top of that too. All right. So one of the tricks is if your chicken's sticking, it's not ready to be flipped. So just let it sit a little bit longer and try not to overcrowd your pan. You might sear your chicken in 2 batches because if it's too many in the pan, it's not gonna cook well and it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. So we're gonna let Mom work away at that. The wonderful thing about this is all of those ingredients are gonna go directly into the pot. But I'm going to take this bowl and I'm going to add the seasoning that needs to go in. And with stew, it's, you know, we've had some salt and pepper that has already gone on to the chicken. And we have here some bay leaves. I'll drop in your bay leaves. Wonderful, aromatic bay leaves. And I am going to put, and for me, I really like the flavor. So I'm putting about 4 bay leaves that are going to go into the stew pot. Now the bay leaf, we don't want to eat the leaf. We just want to get the flavor that comes out of it. And because we've got some onions and we already have some garlic, I am going to be putting a little bit of garlic powder. And in this, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of garlic powder. It just, again, it enhances the flavors that are going to be going in there. I love using rosemary. So this is a really great herb. Rosemary is, it's a woody or a strong herb. So what I'm going to do with the rosemary is I'm just going to crunch it up a little bit in my hand. And it just breaks the rosemary up. I'm using about a teaspoon of rosemary. And these are all going to go directly in once my mother takes the chicken out. And they're going to season a little bit of what that is, the pan. In this jar, I have some wonderful fresh thyme. Now this is a dried thyme and it's fairly ground, almost to a powder. So, and I'm putting about a teaspoon of this dried thyme. And if you have a fresh thyme, it's also perfect in it. And the last ingredient, and this is a summer savory, and as you see, I buy it in a really big container. This is a great local, this is a wonderful Canadian seasoning that we know really well. And I'm going to put about a palm of it in. And hopefully you can see, it just smells incredible. Summer savory is amazing with poultry. So chicken, turkey, duck, any of those beautiful poultries, it's wonderful with. And we're just going to put this here on the top. So now, this beautiful bowl with this seasoning is what I'm going to hand over to Mom, and she's going to take it into the next phase in the pot. I think they're sticking a little bit there.
Yeah.
So we're going to help Mom out and get that done. There we go, Mom. And show them. So right now in the bottom of the pan, we've got some really, you've got the color, which we call like a fond. It's got some really nice flavor. So we're gonna get those vegetables in here. And once we stir the vegetables, it's gonna take some of that wonderful seasoning off the bottom of the pan. We're probably gonna need to just put a little bit more olive oil in that, Mom. Wow, the flavor. Because if you remember, I just put all of that seasoning in there at the same time. Right, Mom?
No, delicious.
It does. And that, Mom's going to put a bit of olive oil. And right in behind here, just give the pot a stir, Mom, with this before you put. I added a little stock. I have a pot on the back with some chicken stock in it that's going to be going into the stew. So I added a little bit of that in, and what that's going to do is allow Mom to get all that nice coating off the bottom from the chicken. This is a heavy bowl. And we'll see in here, she's got some nice brown around the side of the chicken. Remember, there was only salt and pepper on the chicken. And she's just gonna get the vegetables started, and then this chicken's gonna go back in because we really want that beautiful chicken flavor to be cooking. And this is gonna take, traditionally, I would cook this for about an hour. So, and sometimes I will put it in my slow cooker and let it cook all day long. So that's what makes it, to be honest with you, absolutely amazing, is the longer it can cook, the better it tastes. How's that smell, Mom?
Oh, it smells delicious.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you need to put, we'll keep that up. So we're just getting a little bit of the onions, garlic, that seasoning, and the other thing that was in there was the celery, right?
Yes.
And we're just letting that get groovy in the pan. So we're gonna get this other pan turned on here in the front, Mom. Because we're gonna get started with our next recipe. And I'm just gonna set these off to the side. The other thing that we did is I cut up potatoes that are ready for the stew. Here. And I cut them up last night. And those were soaking in cold water. And the reason I do that is it keeps the potatoes nice and firm, and that allows me to prepare all of those ingredients in advance. I'm gonna set this off to the side, Mom. And there's the potatoes when it comes time.
Drain those.
And we were talking about a real estate issue, and that means how much space Michelle has in her pot. And I think that might come into an issue as well. Those look great. I'm gonna bring the pot over. Wow. That is like the best facial. The smells are absolutely unbelievable. Look how I'm coming in with a hot pot. Here we go. Because we used herbs that are very, as we say, aromatic, with the rosemary and the thyme and that summer savory. So I'm very excited about how that's gonna come out for us. So let's look over, we're gonna switch over to having some beef, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about our next recipe. I think that's gonna be good, Mom, to add some of the other ingredients here too shortly.
Yeah.
To let it stew.
Yeah.
But we'll put the these in,
Okay.
and then the chicken in, and then we'll put we're putting our ingredients in, so, and then we'll put the broth on top so we know which level. So I'm gonna need to give Mom a little bit of help with that one.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get our ingredients out while Mom's just getting that together. And we've got some beautiful beef here, and this is a great beef recipe. So this is a nice lean ground beef. What I have for this is gonna have some of the flavors of pizza in it. This is what I love about this particular recipe. And it's all gonna end up in a casserole dish together. And I'm keeping some of the seasoning here because some of the same seasoning is gonna be going into the dish. But I want you to think in terms of that pizza flavor. And I like ground beef on my pizza. So we're gonna be flipping this upside down because the base of this casserole is gonna end up being the beef. But we're also gonna be using these beautiful, gotta move my salt and pepper shakers out of the way here. These potato cakes, potato wedges. Anybody that's ever been to a McDonald's anywhere in the world will know what these are. And these are just like, there's hash browns, as we would call them here. And they are all just into a flat one, and you get them in the frozen food section. So that's the other interesting ingredient, because it's gonna have the flavor of pizza, but instead of pizza dough, we're gonna be doing this. So we're pretty excited. So here's our ingredients. And we've got some pepperoni that's gonna be going into this. And of course, we've got some ground cheese. So I'm just gonna leave these ingredients for a second. Looks amazing, and I'm gonna help Mom get some liquid into that pot.
Okay.
Oh, that looks great. What's that?
You get the hamburger in the pan.
Yeah.
I'll get the hamburger in the pan.
You
Pan's
got
all
your
hotted up.
temperature up?
Yep.
Oh, that smells amazing. I'm impressed that everything fit into the pot. I am not putting our potatoes into the stew at this second. I'm gonna let the stew come up to a boil and cook for about 10 minutes with the hard vegetables that are in it.
Yes.
Then we're gonna add the potatoes. And one of the reasons is I don't wanna overcook my potatoes, which can happen. So Mom, we're just gonna get the cover over here.
Oh, yes.
In this particular pot that I have, sometimes can be referred to as called a Dutch oven, or good as a slow cooker. This is very heavy, it's cast iron. they're worth an investment to get one. But I'm just gonna show you, it's got these bumps on the top. You can see that. And this is where you put this on, it's very heavy, and it's gonna hold the moisture and really help for that cooking process and to help actually really break down the meats and make everything extra delicious. So we're gonna put the cover on that.
Medium here.
Yeah, if we can. Or even, that's,
That seems to be enough.
no, it's a big pot, Mom.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna put that in.
Everybody in the pool.
Everybody in the pool. She's just getting the burger in. So let's jump back in to our second recipe. And Mom, we do want to turn this pot on as well. She's gonna have a lot of pots and put some good amount of olive oil in the back of the pot. We want to get our potato leek soup cooking as well. So while we've got this particular recipe in front of us, I'm going to bring your attention to my mom's favorite soup. So we're going to get a pot turned on in the back. Everything that's going to go into the soup is in this bowl in my hand. So I love this because it's a creamy soup. We will puree it, but there's not going to be any dairy that goes into this soup, which is kind of cool. So on this side of the bowl, and this is a fairly large size bowl, this is probably the equivalent of about 4 cups of diced leeks. Now, leeks are like giant green onions, right? We have here about 7 cloves of garlic, fresh garlic, which I'm just gonna dice up a bit. And then over here, I have a cup, and I've used red onion, whatever regular onion that you would have. And then as you'll see here, I have the equivalent of only about 2 cups of potatoes. So it's double the amount of leeks to potatoes, garlic and onion. And I'm going to use 1 herb in this, and I'm going to use some fresh thyme that's going to go into this. So we have a couple of our sprigs of fresh thyme right here. So salt and pepper, olive oil in the bottom of the pan, and this is what's going to be going in. You can use a chicken stock or a vegetable stock, or to be honest with you, you can use water to be able to cook this soup in. So Mom has turned a burner on right now, and what she's gonna do is we're gonna take the garlic, the leeks, and the onions, and we're gonna get those started in the pan. I'm gonna move our fresh thyme over here, and she's gonna be able to get the pan started. But I'm just gonna take my potatoes because I will wanna cut those up. This soup does not take long to make or cook. But like many soups, I find it tastes even more delicious the second day. Soups and stews can be very much that way. So I'm gonna give Mom this pot, and actually there's only one other thing, Mom, I realized. She has, I've got the fairly large sized garlic in your pot, Mom. So because again, this soup is gonna get pureed, I am just gonna take and cut that garlic into little strips very easily here, and because again that's going to cook down with the onions and the leeks, and then it's all going to end up pureed. One variation sometimes I've done with this soup is I've roasted a roasted bulb of garlic and put roasted garlic in, or as we said, this is a perfect way to do that. So there we have it. Mom's gonna get those started in the pot in the back with the olive oil so we can get that potato leeks cooking. How's that? Want me to do a temperature test? Here we have it. Let me put that in for you, Mom. So we did a temperature test, and that was dropping an onion into the olive oil and to make sure we hear that sizzle. And the key to that is we want to cook our onions in the olive oil. So if it goes in there at a good temperature, then it's cooking versus absorbing the olive oil. So, the kitchen here smells absolutely amazing. And as we always say, it's warm in the kitchen even though it's cold outside. Today you're going to see it's super sunny, which we love that here in Canada. A lot of people think because it's so cold that it's not necessarily sunny. And to be honest with you, it's actually beautifully sunny. And you can get a sunburn, especially for people like me that are very fair-skinned. But no sunburns today. I do have some shoveling of snow that I do need to go finish. So these hearty meals are going to be extra good because Michelle's going to be out shoveling some more snow today. So let's get back over to our next recipe. And there's always ingredients that are repeated in a kitchen that are the perfect ingredients for everything. And I'm going to talk about those spices that Michelle recommends everybody has in their kitchen. And it's interesting because I see myself using them in all these quite traditional recipes here today. So Mom has the burger going.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give her the green onions. I had diced up some green onions and we're going to give her those that are going into hers. And again, we've got a little bit of fresh garlic. Set this off to the side and we'll see, we've got our fresh garlic here. And you'll also see I've got diced celery. And what I'm doing is the onions and the garlic, the celery are all sort of similar sizes. But I'm just cutting the garlic into really super thin strips. Make sure you have a good sharp knife in your kitchen. Those things are also very helpful. It doesn't take long. You can also buy garlic and onion paste in jars like this. So if you don't always have a bulb of fresh garlic, but you want that nice garlic or onion taste, buy some of those jars and keep them in your fridge. You'll see the garlic is all cut up here, and I'm just going to run my knife through it a little bit more. This is going to be going in with the celery that we have here. And then I'm going to give this to Mom, and again, it's going to go in with the burger and onion mixture so we can get those cooked down. So, that smells good. We need to get Mom some seasoning. Actually, I'm going to keep my little bowl back. And we're going to use this for a little seasoning bowl that's going to go in. Remember, we're building the base for our beef and pizza casserole. And there's our wonderful cheese. And I just found a stray garlic. So, we're going to move this over here. So let's look at spices that are going to go in here. I've got some garlic powder here. And what we want to do is, and we're going to use fairly even amounts. Remember, we use fresh garlic. So I'm going to use about a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then here I've got some oregano. And oregano has got that pizza kind of feel to it. So I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Oh my goodness, that smells so delicious. We've got a little bit of that dried thyme. And I'm just putting about a half a teaspoon of the dried thyme. And those are the dried herbs that are going to go in it. Oregano to me is really the key in this one because it really gives you the pizza kind of feel. The other thing might be is if you had some fresh basil or something like that. So that's going to go in there. Is that front burner on a good temperature? Mom's getting that all stirred up.
It's fine, just a little.
It's just small.
It's just a little burner.
So we've got all of those ingredients. She's going to give those a good stir so we can cook them through a little bit. But remember, this is going to bake in the oven. And we've got a couple of other ingredients that are going to be going into this particular base to make it rich and flavorful. So over here in the pan, because we're going to be topping it with grated cheese, I have a little bit of cheddar in here, and mainly it's mozzarella cheese that's in here. So this is going to be going on the top of it. And remember, we've got our patties out here. So I'm going to move these over for a second and take them out. This is also a really great meal because you can decide your portion sizes and how many people that you're feeding based on how this is. So I am going to take the potatoes out of the bottom, and what I want to do here is I just want to put a little bit of a non-stick cooking spray in the bottom of the pan. That's good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Mom, we're going to take and add, I think we're going to mix it in this red bowl over here. If you want to put all the meat and stuff into that red bowl. So I've used a cooking spray, and I'm just spraying off the bottom of this pan because we're going to cook it, and we don't want it to, what's the word I want to say? Stick to the bottom of the pan. That's an easy word. I gotta preheat the oven. You need to understand that the kitchen smells so good behind me right now. I'm leaned over this pot. So, Mom, I will, if you want to bring it over here, the bowl. There we go. And do this. So, thank you. That is a little heavy, right?
Yeah.
Good job, Mom. So in here, let's have a look. We've got that beautiful beef that's cooked down. You can see the green onions. I can see some of the herbs through there. And then little bits of celery. It looks absolutely delicious. And I could have used a bigger frying pan and mixed this all in the frying pan, but I didn't. So we're going to put this into this particular bowl here. Just going to put this out of our way. This is where it gets like saucy. And I like to say food is meant to be sauced. This particular recipe, it's like a layered, I used to make it years ago, and it's great when you have a bunch of people coming over, and especially maybe if you have some kids that can be fussy eaters, but they love pizza. So remember, we've got our burger, our onions, our celery, that great oregano. I can smell already a little bit more. This is pizza sauce. Now, I did not make a homemade pizza sauce. I went and got a wonderful can of pizza sauce. I love it because I travel around the world. And last year when I was in Morocco, I was going to do something. And it was great because I could find a can of pizza sauce there. So, and then the other thing is we've got a can of cream of mushroom soup. So this is where it's got a little bit of processed ingredients in it, but worth how delicious and decadent this is. We're gonna mix the meat and the sauces together, and this is gonna create this delicious base to our pizza beef casserole. As you see, beefy. Oh my goodness, I think I could eat a bowl of this. Just like this. This would be one of those ones where, look away. I'm gonna hold that up. You can see, it already looks amazing. But this is where it's gonna get fun. We're gonna pour this into the base of the pan. But what I'm gonna do,
Want me to hold the pan?
is we might need you to do that. I'm gonna put on the sides, I am putting, as you'll see, just around the edges with the potato wedges. This is a heavy bowl.
Oops, hold them up.
You're gonna go in? All right. So here's the pour. Look at that. And this is why one of your best tools in the kitchen, spatula. And I hope you've been noticing because I've been using all of Michelle's favorite kitchen tools today. Here we have it. There. Here, thanks, Mom. I'm just gonna move that. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna move this up here so everybody can see. Wow. So that already looks delicious and decadent. So we're gonna push the mixture around. And as you can see, the edges are gonna create like this delicious crust. Remember, we sprayed the pan. It's so important that you spray your pan. You check what's sizzling over there, Mom?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good behind us.
The edge, I turned it down because they're all ready to add to the soup.
Stir, stir, stir.
Yeah. See, they're all.
Oh, excellent. We're going to show the audience what that looks like if you want to pull it off. So let's have a look here. Let's stay back on this recipe. We've got everything around. Now, I've got these few additional that are left here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut. Can I give you that one, Mom? Thanks. I'm just going to cut them in half. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place them and I'm pushing them down into the meat mixture. Here's my other two. And this is what's really great about this because it's going to have more potato in the middle. Now you can use a lot more of these. It depends on how many you want to do. But we've got potatoes around the edge, potatoes in the middle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pepperoni. And I'm just going to make sure I push that pepperoni down inside. This is a beautiful beef pepperoni. This is actually halal. Thank you to the Rabia store here in Moncton, New Brunswick. Love shopping there. And they have this great new pepperoni that they've brought in. And I have a lot of my Muslim friends that come over. And it's great to be able to get all those products here. So I love pepperoni. I don't know about you. I want to make sure I get pepperoni in every bite. So we're putting pepperoni around. So we've got a nice layer of pepperoni. If you can feel the weight of this, it's amazing. It probably weighs about 3 kilograms. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go all in between and we're going to fill this with this cheese. I have a cheddar and mozzarella mixture here, but you can use whatever you would like. Mozzarella would really be that traditional one because again, we're doing the mimic of the pizza flavor with this that's going to be going in. So I've got mainly mozzarella that's in here. Here you can buy pre-grated cheese, but I find if I can get a good deal on cheese, then I'm good. I will take the time and grate it myself. So there we have that. I also want to note that I've left a little bit. Oh gosh, that's going to be it. Can I pick that up? It's heavy. You can see a little bit of the potato sticking out the top of it, and we definitely want that because that's going to make that crispy, right? Crispy. Mom already knew where I was going with that. I am going to set this behind me. There we go. And we're just going to wait for that oven to get up to temperature. I think that the next step we're going to look at, well, let's take a sneak peek at our stew and where that is. I need another cloth, Mom. Oh, here we go. Because the pot's heated up a lot.
And it's hot.
And it's hot. And this one is heavy. I think today is the day of the heavy pots.
Yeah.
Where's those potatoes, Mom?
Oh,
We put them in behind you.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
And I hope you're ready because I already know. Oh, wow.
I know. It smells so
It
good.
smells delicious. The bay leaves here. I'm just gonna take a check. Thin life. Yeah, so I can feel that the turnip and the carrots are about halfway cooked. So this is a really great opportunity for us to add some of those potatoes in.
Oh, there's your oven ready.
And there's our oven ready at the same time. Everything's coming up. And see, we did okay with the size in there. But remember, we're gonna do a dumpling. So the last thing we're gonna be mixing up here. So I wanna get all these in, get that temperature back up. Smells absolutely delicious. So we're gonna put those potatoes down. The chicken is falling off the bone already. It's just like we braised it all day.
And
So
the cover's got a dome, so that'll be good for the dumplings.
exactly. So we're gonna put this back in. We're gonna get this back up to a boil. I'm gonna just make sure that's up to a boil. Excellent.
Okay.
So we're also working through, and we've got another pot of soup that's been on the go. I just got the warning that my oven is ready for my casserole as well. So we're gonna take this pot. Yeah. And if you remember the size of the bowl, which I think is just directly behind you there, Mom.
With the big one.
Yeah, that was full.
Oh, yeah.
You remember full of the leeks and the onions. And at first that probably looks like, where did it all go? And I'll give Mom that back. This is what they look like now that they're all cooked down. So what a big difference. It smells amazing, and you can smell the garlic. And Mom, you cook those down absolutely perfectly. So we want to keep the temperature going on this. So I'm going to give the pot back to Mom. And what we're going to be doing here is I've got the rest of that chicken broth that I had here. Is we're going to add that chicken broth in. Now at this point I am using a hot chicken broth, so it's nicely going to keep temperature. So we're going to put this back on. I'm going to add some potatoes into that as we bring it back up to a boil. Up a little higher now. So if you remember, for the potato leek soup, we've got potatoes. Well, first of all, we've got leeks and onions in there now. And we need to add the potato. So as we clear off here, a few of the things that we don't need anymore. There we go. So we don't need to use a lot of potato in this soup. And the potato really is what ends up the thickener. So we've got our potatoes out here. And because I want them to cook fairly quickly, I am just going to cut these into fairly small sizes. And that's going to allow the potatoes to cook very quickly in the mixture. So they'll probably only take about 10 minutes to cook, and then we'll be able to puree that soup. And I'll just show you the size here. We've got a little bowl, and as you see, they're almost small bite-sized pieces. But remember, we are going to puree this soup, so it's all going to get minced down. Now that bowl is probably about the size of a measuring cup, or 250 milliliters. So we're going to be putting in probably the equivalent of 2 cups of potatoes. I will publish the recipe. I've published this recipe before with ratios to make sort of a pot that'll feed 6 or 8 people. But if you want to double the recipe or add more, it is quite easy to do. Mom, is that pot back up to a boil? We had a lot of pots going back there. And we just want to make sure that we've got that on the right temperature to bring that back up to a boil. Now, Michelle's really overstuffing this bowl. It's like, how many potatoes can Michelle fit into that bowl? But we're going to cut one more. So as I said, it's probably around the equivalent of 2 cups diced potatoes. And then the only other ingredient that we need in here is that lovely fresh thyme. And usually I would put that fresh thyme in with the onions and the leeks at the beginning. But it's still sitting here, which is no problem. And we'll get that into the pot. There we go, Mom. We've got 2 piles of potatoes coming your way. So I'm going to put these in using my 2 dishes that I have into the pot. There we go. Excellent. Everybody in the pool. And then what I have here is the fresh thyme. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to pull most of it off the sticks. And it's fun though. This is an herb that's a hearty herb. It's wonderful in delicate dishes. It's great for baking in the oven. As I say, you can give the gift of time to people. But I find it's one of my favorite herbs to use in anything. But in this particular recipe, it is the perfect herb. I have never made this with a different one. There are recipes I've substituted other herbs in. But this one is always thyme. And it really does need to be fresh thyme, as I make sure I don't have any sticks. I'm going to use a little bit of dried thyme in it as well. But here we go. I'm going to put that one into the pot. Here, Mom, if you could put a little salt and pepper into that pot as well for some seasoning.
Okay.
And just adding a little extra garlic powder, which I think is probably more of a habit that I have with everything. I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of garlic powder into there and make sure we've got that really great fresh flavor. If you feel like you want to make your soup a little saltier, another really great thing is to add would be some onion powder or some freeze-dried onion. But we've already got a lot of onion in that particular recipe with the onions and leeks, so we should be good. All right. Let me just help you, Mom. Here you go. Give it a stir. She was having a hard time with the grinder back there. So as we wrap up, our stew is stewing. Our soup's amazing. We're gonna get that casserole. We're gonna put that casserole into the oven a little later because I want it to be fresh when it comes out for our guests. So we'll be showing you the baked version of that as we finish that up. But I'm gonna mix, and these are what we call a dumpling. And dumplings are in many cultures. And I don't know, we grew up, Mom, this might have been one of our all-time favorite things.
Yeah.
When Mom was making stews, we were always excited, just getting a measuring spoon out here. And we'd say, I want the dumplings. And they really are quite simple to make.
Yes.
So what we're gonna be making, I'm doing here right now, is I'm gonna mix the blend. They're called a drop dumpling. So I'm going to use a cup of flour. This is a half a measuring cup. So here we go. We've got a cup of flour. And with a cup of flour, I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, very important that you remember, I don't want to use too much, so I'm just leveling my teaspoons out so that I'm not using... You can measure garlic and put as much as you want, but when you're measuring these, look, I keep knocking it off the spoon. Try to make it even. There we go. And then the other ingredient is, oh, we needed some milk. I've got about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Michelle's using her measuring hand again of salt that's going to go into that. Now, I like to add a little extra flavor. You don't have to. You can add herbs to them, or I'm adding a little pinch of garlic powder. And many times it's nice, you can add some fresh parsley. You can add any other of nice fresh herbs that you have. or a little bit of a dried herb. And in these ones, I'm just going to use a little bit of the summer savory. And but you do not need to add those to it. And I just need to grab some milk. And I should have probably get some regular milk from my mother, because I use like a coconut milk or an oat milk or one of those other milks. So hopefully these will rise up okay for us. I'm going to be using an unsweetened coconut milk with this. And we need to add 3/4 of a cup of milk. So that's a half and a quarter. And a quarter. Right? My mother, you taught me well, Mom. Is make sure that I know how to measure. And we're going to stir this up. And we want to make sure that that gets mixed through really well, because we've got dry and wet ingredients in there. And the funny thing about these, which is interesting, the dough, I'm going to show you how the consistency comes together with this. And you don't want to overmix your dough too much either, but we want to make sure there's no dry spots, and I can see those herbs through the dough. I think we've got everything mixed in there. Well, just sort of kneading through to make sure. And what we're going to be doing with these, and it's great, is we're going to drop them on top of the stew. And I'm going to get my mom to lift up the cover. And we're going to just going to do a couple of smaller ones for us to be able to show everybody. Here we go, Mom. Put the cover on that. So we've got them on there. We're going to put the cover on, and they take about 10 minutes to get really puffed up. And you want to be patient and make sure that you leave the cover on. It's kind of funny. We often would get impatient with that. Wouldn't we, Mom? I want to peek at the dumplings. No. Says you need that steam to take effect. So we're just going to double check on where we're at with the soup. If we're ready to grind that up, can you just put your fork in the back there, Mom? Oh. And we're going to finish off that beautiful soup that we were doing. Now, I've got a wonderful immersion blender here. And these are great blenders to use. And one of the things that I like about these is how fast they are. So if you don't have an immersion blender, there's very few kitchen tools that I highly recommend that you have. And that immersion blender is definitely one of them. And Mom's just making sure those potatoes are cooked through, because what we're going to do is we're going to be able to blend that. I'm just going to go out of the camera here for a second so I can plug in my blender so that we can blend this up for you. How is that cooked, Mom?
Just maybe another minute or two.
Okay. So there we go, live show when we're off on timing on that particular one. So I'm going to take a minute and we're going to do a top things to have in your kitchen. I promise you, we're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. We were just saying that having an immersion blender. So these are really easy. You can get them quite inexpensively. So if you're going to use it a lot, invest a little bit more. It's really wonderful because when you're doing something like we're doing with a pureed soup, we're not trying to move it into a larger blender. You can do smoothies, you can do a lot of different things with that. So I definitely would say that. But there's a few kitchen tools that everybody should have in their kitchen. Number one, a good sharp knife. And if you're only going to have one or two knives in your kitchen, This particular size is really fantastic. This one is actually from IKEA, but make sure your knives are sharp. When you have a good sharp knife, and this has a rubber grip on it, so it's really easy for me to hold on to. Make sure you have a spatula, like a rubber spatula. Something like this, you will be able to use it to spoon things out, stir a variety of different things. And the other thing is great is because of it, you can scrape all the good stuff off the bowl, and it's not going to scratch any of your good pots or pans. And I've got another one of these that's shaped very much like a spoon, so you can use it in 2 factors. Having a vegetable peeler, sometimes we just call it a carrot peeler because I think it's been most known for peeling carrots. But you can use this to julienne vegetables, get some other things, cut down potatoes, make potato slices. This is a great tool to have, and you can use it for a variety of different things. You can cut cheese, get a good one, very handy tool. And Michelle's last one that I always have is a good pair of kitchen scissors. Make sure people know these are your ones that you use. Cutting herbs, cutting spaghetti, cutting pizza, getting and prepping your vegetables. It's a great thing for it.
Ready.
So we've got this ready. I've got this plugged in here, so I'm gonna do this right here with the group.
Okay.
I will grab it.
Get your other hand. Okay.
There we go. Now this is this particular pot has 2 sets of handles, so it makes it a little bit easier to do. I'm just gonna grab this. We're gonna use one of my trusty tools. Just gonna lean this pot over so we can let the audience have a look. And you can see the potatoes, the leeks. Michelle's getting a potato facial. So, and I can smell the wonderful garlic that's in that as well. So it's gonna get a little loud for a second. I feel like I should mute my volume, but let's see if we can do this quickly. And we'll see how easy this particular is. For people that are gluten-free, dairy-free, this is one of your perfect soups to have. I'm putting the pot sideways so it's deep. And I'm just giving it a bit of a stir. And again, I've got my immersion blender a little bit sideways so that I can get the depth of the pot and I'm not spraying it everywhere. And there we go. This is going to be absolutely, I can already smell how amazing it is. I'm just going to move this out of the way. Set this off to the side. Mom, we're going to wrap this episode up. Let's grab me a bowl. We're going to pour ourselves a little bowl of soup. Mom, just, there we go. We'll take care of this.
Oh.
And I just need a ladle for the soup.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I can use a measuring cup. On those warm and cozy days, another really great way when you have soup and stuff, I've often served it in a mug. Right, Mom?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and having a nice mug of soup. But we're going to take this and finish this off. And just want to say from everybody, thank you for joining us on the Cozy Meal episode today. We hope that you look at getting some wonderful soup,
Looks good.
some stew.
Smells delicious.
It smells amazing. Look at that. You can see that really great green color. Sometimes we top that off with some sour cream or something else. I'm going to move this over here. And check on our dumplings, which have done exactly what we want them to do. So I'm going to bring our stew pot over. So we're going to finish off, and we're going to show you a couple of these beautiful recipes. As we said, we're not baking this today. or we're not baking this right now, but we're certainly gonna have it here to show you. Now move our bowl of soup over. Thanks, Mom.
The other one's over there.
This is one of those ones that we have to bring it in for the visual. Oh, wow, everybody. So this is a good unveiling on Atlantic Canada Cooks. And have a look at those wonderful dumplings. Right? Absolutely delicious. So come around here, Mom. We've got some soup, some wonderful chicken stew and dumplings, and our great pizza beef casserole we're going to have later.
And
So-
yeah.
Right?
Looks like a good supper.
Are you hungry? I know I am. So from our kitchens to yours, thanks so much for joining us on Atlantic Canada Cooks every Sunday. We're going to be celebrating China next week because it's the Chinese New Year this week. So get out and get some great food. Stay warm with cozy meals. And we just want to thank everybody on YouTube, our Zoom audience that comes in and enjoys. We're going to put the cover back on that. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Take care.
Mom.
Have a great week.